Howdy, everybody. So we got a long one today, and we're just going to jump out of the gate and say that. So I'm going to give a quick reading update. I'll do my writing update at the end so you guys don't have to deal with that. We're going to talk about priorities, as the title of this video probably says, for 2025 in terms of my year-long goals. I'm going to just be obscure. My reading has been slow lately with my writing. Therefore, I'm currently, I think, 2/3 of the way done with Bonehunters, or just about, and I'm hoping to finish it within the next week. But I'm going to MarsCon this weekend to see Christopher Ruocchio as the guest of honor, and I'm excited to see some friends down there in Norfolk as well. As I go into this video, I will talk about series that I plan on finishing this year that I've already started, series that I intend to at least continue, if not finish, that'd be great. Series that I will definitely continue, or at least plan on continuing. Other like books, miscellaneous standalones, things of that nature that I'd love to get to, and some that I am getting to soon. Some nonfiction and some classics, and then a reread or a reread or two, and some manga. So I'm going to jump right into it. There are some books that I have in my head that I will try to remember as I go through this. This is off the cuff, no script. So, and a lightsaber microphone. So that's what we're getting here. Now, first things first, Malazan. As I'm going through Bonehunters, I'm going to show you my favorite cover that I have of this series, Guards of the Moon. So I intend on finishing Malazan this year. That is a must. The goal is by June to at least get through. I'm on Bonehunters right now. I plan on reading the E&C Esselmont books in there as well. As far as the main book of The Fallen, I intend to finish that at least, including whatever comes chronologically before Crippled God. And then the rest, I'll kind of throw in hopefully by the end of the year, but that would signal a big series jump to what I'm going to next. I plan on finishing. I'm going to read The Prophet of Edan here pretty soon, going into next month, I believe. I'm going to read Disquiet Gods, and Prophet of Edan will probably be my two primary reads of February, with Will of the Many, I think, coming into March. So again, I'm setting my expectations pretty low as far as the quantity that I'm going to be able to read, just going into months ahead. My reading has slowed down due to some more writing stuff. Therefore, I'm just trying to set realistic expectations for myself and obviously for you guys, because there's some series that I say I want to start that I just end up not starting because something else comes up, because I'm very much a mood reader. So Prophet of Edan, I intend to finish this trilogy again. That one's by the summer. This one, I'm going to do Prophet of Edan and Return of Edan, I think, before July. That's the goal with the Edan trilogy. Then we have Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. I'm on Dark Age right now. I will be finishing the Red Rising series. Hopefully, if Red God comes out, that's obviously, if Red God comes out this year, I will be reading Dark Age and Lightbringer to catch up and then get to Red God. That will be the goal there. I currently, again, like I said, I'm reading Disquiet Gods next month. If Shadows Upon Time comes out from our resident Christopher Ruocchio. Ashes of Man, my favorite in the series. I'm showing this one off because it is my favorite in the series. It's the one I'm bringing with me this weekend to have him sign, hopefully. We'll see. I'm staying at the same hotel, so maybe if I just bump shoulders with him, that'd be sick. The Empire of the Vampire Trilogy. I understand that the third book of this series is coming out this year. I love the first one. I intend to read the second one and flip this UK edition. The UK edition of this cover is just gorgeous, and I like the US one, but way more, I like this one way more, and I don't think that there's an argument to be made there. Yes, Empire of the Damned, I will be reading that going into, that one might be a June-July situation, we'll see, or that might just be a fall thing, and then I just get that one and binge into the next one. We have the Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill. It's my understanding Empires of Dust comes out this year, and I'm really looking forward to finishing the series. I have The Ice to go to catch up completely, which it's a novella. I will read that. I have no idea when, but I will read it, and I will read Empires of Dust when that puppy comes out. We have the Last War trilogy, Until the Last. This is the final book in the series. I have A Fool's Hope and this to go. I read that with the Red Company, Chris over at Beauty Book Beast, Jake over at Nerd Level Rising, Alex at Iskandaria. I sound like a pirate there. We are reading Eluthienn currently, which is another self-published book. I will show. Oh, I don't have it over here. So we're reading that for our Red Company discussion and going into February. But I believe that we'll be continuing The Last War at some point, because I think we all really loved it. We all love Mike Shackle's work and the connections to Joe Abercrombie, the dark themes, and there is a clear light and dark in this book so far, having read We Are the Dead. But this one I am also really looking forward to. Now I'm going to move into books that I've started or I intend to start. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm going to move this Gorman Gas one over. Ooh, I just gave a spoiler. So Dread Empire. This is by Glenn Cook. I have not read The Black Company. Joseph at Joseph Reads Books had recommended going through the Dread Company. I read Fire in His Hands, which is like 100 some odd pages. Again, these are all like relatively easy to get through. Like I think the whole series of Dread Empire is a single Malazan book. So ideally, I get to at least continue this series, and if not, finish it. This is my favorite, the favorite cover of mine of the ones that I own. I cannot find matching covers from Nightshade Books for this puppy. That said, Dread Empire by Glenn Cook is one that I really want to get to because I love Fire in His Hands. I see the Malazan influence that that is there, and it's so apparent. Fire in His Hands is literally the Seven Cities, and it's crazy. It's so cool. I'm really looking forward to getting into that. I started this series with my girlfriend last year. It's the first book we read together, Lonesome Dove. It also is both of one of our favorite books, Streets of Laredo. This is one I'm going to probably try and continue here soon. I love these paperback copies. We also have been like hunting down some older, print copies and hardcover copies. So we have Comanche Moon, and I think Dead Man's Walk is the one that we need to hunt down still. But yeah, Streets of Laredo, I intend to read this. I don't know about finishing the series, but I would love to. Then we have the Imperium, which is a part of a series. I don't know the name of the series. It might just be Imperium by Robert Harris. I do love some historical fiction, and this is one that I loved so much. It's in my top 10. It's in my top 6. And I would love to get back to the Cicero experience. And oh wow, I forgot the name of the person that you're seeing in the eyes, but it's his slave, and it's a very, very interesting read. It's obviously political. The politics is done incredibly in this book. Incredibly, I hear everything. The next 2 books in the trilogy are incredible as well. Although I had also heard that they weren't by the person that I heard that this was the best book ever. So I'm going to just kind of go into them without expectations because I love the writing. I love Robert Harris's style so much. And I also it's my understanding that he has a bunch of other books that I think Tori Talks recommended on one of her videos at one point. And we chatted in the comments about it. And that's one that Robert Harris's work is one that I want to get to for that reason. Now, I'm going to get into a series that I intend to start, not 100% sure if I'm going to finish because of how much you got to read, Before I do that, I'm going to talk about series that I have started that I'm not super confident I'm going to be able to finish. I'll mention Red Country first by Joe Abercrombie. I think I'm going to be able to get that one done. Age of Madness is one that I would probably put high up on my priority list because once I started reading First Law, I just wanted to read. Once I read The Blade itself, I read Before They Are Hanged and Last Argument of Kings almost instantly. So I think I'll have that sort of situation with Age of Madness. As I get into finishing Red Country, I want to do that in the next few months. And I'm going to probably do that one on audio because I love Stephen Pacey's narration. And so in doing that, I will probably get to Age of Madness this year at some point, which I'm really looking forward to because I hear people like it more than First Law. And I'm excited just to return to some Joe Abercrombie and then get to his new book coming out next year, The Devils, or this year. Wow, it's 2025 already. I also have started The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. I've started Bloodsworn by John Gwynne. I think realistically, I could finish by the end of the year Bloodsworn by John Gwynne. I have Hunger of the Gods and Fury of the Gods left. I'm looking forward to getting back to that world because I just loved the influence of it, the Viking-esque, the Norse mythology aspects of it, and the gods and how they tie in, especially having read the first book, Shadow of the Gods. So, and I would want to read Bloodsworn, I think, because of how much I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Shadow of the Gods more than I enjoyed Malice, and therefore I want to finish Bloodsworn first, even though I hear that The Faithful and the Fallen gets better after Malice. Much better after Malice. I would like to return to Faithful and the Fallen at some point. I would definitely prioritize Age of Madness and Bloodsworn over that. Other books that I'd like to get to that I don't have on hand, The Mountain Crown I'd love to get to, Jen Lyon's series. I think The Ruin of Kings might be the first one. I saw Janny Wurts talking about it. That is one that I would love to get to as well, at least start and not finish. And those are the ones that are popping off on the top of my head that I wrote in my notes on my phone, which I'm recording from. So cool. Now I'm going to move on. I would love to read Words of Radiance this year, specifically Words of Radiance. I can't help but see what people are talking about with Wind and Truth. As far as Brandon Sanderson is concerned, my only experience with Brandon Sanderson has been The Way of Kings, and I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. I hear that Words of Radiance is going to be it's one of the most, if not the most exceptional book in fantasy, period. And it sets up the rest of the series well. And it's just something that I feel like I need to read. I also need to read more. I need to finish A Clash of Kings in the Game of Thrones series to get to A Storm of Swords, which that will hopefully happen this year, just as a throwing that up there. Just so you guys know. So I'm going to get to Words of Radiance, hopefully this year. and don't know if I'm going to finish the whole series. Gormenghast. Yeah, here we go. So I am talking about something there. Gormenghast, I think I'm going to be reading this with Britton over at some Okie Dude, and we are going to read the first book in this, which I think is called Triton something or other. I am messing that up. Hold on, I could probably open to the first couple of pages here, and let's see. And this is an illustrated edition, which is awesome. And yeah, I have, Titus Grown. That's what it is. Okay. So I believe I'm reading Titus Grown in March with, and it's introduction by Michael Moorcock. Well, there you go. Well, I will also want to read some, Elric of Melniboné. That'd be fun. To at least getting into some of those, stories of the Elric saga. But yeah, Gormenghast, I believe I'm reading, Titus Peak with, Britton over at some Okie Dude. So that's going to be fun. I have read the Memory, Sauron, and Thorne trilogy. That I'm going to talk about later, but I would love to, love to. Don't know how realistic this one is. Love to get to the Last King of Osten art and start with the Witchwood Crown. I read the novella in between the two, The Heart of What Was Lost. Loved it. Again, just getting back to Tad Williams' writing and his world and the world of Osten art. It's one of the most fantastic. It was my introduction to the fantasy genre. Simply, honestly, because I saw George R.R. Martin had given it so much praise, and I was like, oh well, inspired Game of Thrones, like why not get into it? And just that being my intro to fantasy was incredible because it was a slow burn, and my expectations. And then I jumped into Joe Abercrombie, I think, and then Shadow of the Gods right after that. So you had two incredibly fast-paced books after getting the slow burn of Memory, Sauron, and Thorne. But I really am excited to Last King of Osten art. I hear a lot of good things about the follow-on series to Memory, Sauron, and Thorne, which is this. The covers of the first two books are beautiful. I like the covers of the last two books. I believe Navigator's Children, the final book, it's in a 4-book series, just came out this year or in 2024 in December, and that is one that I am really looking forward to. I'll turn these around so you guys can see the spines and how much we love that. Then we have Curse of the Mist Wraith. This is Wars of Light and Shadow by Janny Wurts. This is directly tied to my completion of Malazan, which I intend again to finish by the summer. I hope, because I want to get to the. I love Stephen Erikson's work, and I just want to finish. I just want to get that experience. I'm trying not to rush it. I usually take a natural break after finishing a Malazan book, just because my mind seeps on it for a little bit. That's not the correct terminology. And the more I'm for example, the further I'm away from Midnight Tides, the more I like it. The more it stands out to me in the series. Dead House Gate's still hard to top. That one. We'll talk about that later. So yes, Wars of Light and Shadow, Janny Wurts, Curse of the Mist Wraith. I intend to finish at least 1 or 2 books. If I'm able to finish Malazan in the time allotted, I hope to finish at least 2 or 3 books of the Wars of Light and Shadow this year. Then we have the Hierarchy trilogy, The Will of the Many. I just actually got this bad boy in today. So stoked about it. I love this edition. I really do. This one I intend to read. I believe I'm reading it with Jake at Nerd Level Rising, and it might be Philip Chase from the Edan trilogy. No big deal. And I think we're going to read it, and that might be a buddy read in March. I'm not 100% sure on that yet because there might be some Mark Lawrence somewhere in there as well, the Library trilogy, which is another series I want to get to. I actually started the Prince of Thorns, and I fell in love with Mark Lawrence's writing, and somehow I didn't finish that book. And it wasn't like a DNF. It was a buy for now, just accidentally. I think I was reading Gardens of the Moon at the time. And so my brain was just enthralled with it. Or I was reading Shadow and Claw with Book of the New Sun. And that's why I think I got to that point where I just put it down. But yes, Mark Lawrence is something I want to get to. James Islington is something an author I want to get to this year at the Will of Many. I want to introduce some new authors to my brain. So that would be great. Now, speaking of older authors that I've read that I love the Book of the New Sun. It's I think the Sword and Citadel is in my top 3 or 4. The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe. There was Josh Reed's books, I believe, is the first time I saw this. Britton over at some Okie Dudes reading it. I believe Samwise is aware of it or has read it. The Wizard Knight is one I want to get to just to see the noble, bright aspect of Gene Wolfe in a different environment. I loved his writing. I loved his prose. So this is something that I'm excited to get to just to get a little bit more fantasy in my life. Not that I have enough. I'm not making any sense. As far as sci-fi, House of the Suns by Alastair Reynolds. This is one I want to get to this year. Somebody recommended this to me in the comments. I also would love to read 10,000, which is a historical fiction novel. That one about, I think it's an ancient Greek novel. That one I would love to get to as well. But House of Suns, just a couple that were recommended to me in the comments. Agatha Christie, and then there were none. I think that's a reread for me, even though I didn't finish it in school. But House of Suns sounds really interesting to me, based on what this person had sold me on in the comments. And obviously I own it, so easily sold, And then we have Mercy of the Gods, James S.A. Corey. This one I intended to read earlier in 2024, I think right around when it came out. And I have not dove into James S.A. Corey's I haven't read The Expanse yet. Mercy of the Gods seems digestible enough, even though I understand that there's some hard science fiction in this one. I do intend on reading Mercy of the Gods at least this year. That would be fun to get that experience. And speaking of science fiction, we got Project Hail Mary, Andy Weir. This is one I definitely would love to get to. Again, simple enough for me to pick up and read, just making time for it. I'm really burning through these. Wow, I'm impressed. This is my next read after I finish Malazan, To Ride Hell's Chasm by Janny Wurts. To try and get this in January, the national month of Janny Wurts. I intend to read this book this month after I finish Malazan. With my speed in terms of my reading, with my editing process, it's difficult to get time to read or make time to read now, especially with work. So To Ride Hell's Chasm, that is my next read. So that's a pretty high on the priority list if you ask me. We have Black Leopard, Red Wolf, also recommended by Britton from Somebody Key Dude. He loved this book so much. He was so passionate about it. I had to pick it up. I haven't read Marlon James. I think the prose style I believe is jarring in some ways. He says listening to it is actually a better way to experience it. So I might do a listen read situation, a little immersive reading situation with Black Leopard, Red Wolf. It's my understanding this is a part of a series. I'm not 100% sure how I'll feel about the first book, so I don't know if I'll continue, but I imagine that it's something that will call back to me. Then we have Horns by Joe Hill. Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads recommended this. Love this book a lot. This is kind of out of my element, and it sounds devilishly good. That's a quote from USA Today on the cover right there. So that's one that I would love to get to as well. Then we have the Joshua Walker independently published series, Song of the Sleepers. This is a novella. This is Rest to the Gods. This is one that I got. I believe it's The Exile of Water and Gold is the main cover. It's like a Jeff Brown cover. It's beautiful. And that's one that I intend to get to this year. Definitely the novella. I think I can read and catch up because I think there's his second book of the series is coming out as well. Iron Prince. I picked this one up because of the gushing that Andrew at Wizardly Reads did for this, and also Tory Talks did for Iron Prince. I have never dabbled into I've never dabbled into progression fantasy. Did you hear that crack? I've never dabbled into progression fantasy, and this seems like something up my alley. And I am so curious to try out this genre and see what it's like, see what the Warformed Stormweaver is like. And I believe Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews also loved this book. And him and I think our taste typically aligns. When I first started getting into BookTube, I found that his recommendations were usually on par with what I enjoyed. And then we have some miscellaneous stuff that I'm going to dive into here. We have some Hemingway. I had started The Old Man and the Sea, somehow haven't finished it. 40 pages in. It's short. It's just like I picked it up once, and then I want to go back to it. The prose style, again, it's Hemingway, so it's like punchy and simple. I do like McCarthy, and you can see Cormac McCarthy having been influenced by Hemingway. At least I think so. And that's just me. I don't actually know if that's real. You don't have to quote me on that. But yeah, I think I want to read The Old Man and the Sea or Farewell. I'm going to try and finish The Old Man and the Sea this year, and then if I can read Farewell to Arms, I think that would be a good year for me, getting some Hemingway, some classics in. In terms of other classics, there's some Dostoevsky, and I believe Stoner is another one that has been thrown out there that I've seen. I think John's reading it over at Talking Story this month, and I've seen it around. What's his name? Damn, there's a channel that says Books Are Sick, week X of Books Are Sick, and he loves Stoner, I believe. Oh, wow. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Then we have The Art of Language Invention. This is one that I wanted to read. I forgot who recommended this to me. This is nonfiction. It talks about creating languages, and as a fantasy writer, this is extremely appealing to me. I'd also love to finish The Art of Fiction. That's another nonfiction reading book I'd love to get to this year. Then we have The Dawn of Everything, a new history of humanity, recommended by Philip Chase over at Philip Chase, The Best of Fantasy, who also wrote the Edan trilogy. And I'll take an English professor's recommendation for a nonfiction book. How about that? I typically didn't in my past. So I think I need to make up some time. And The Dawn of Everything sounds up my alley. I do have a sort of affinity for history, and this seems to take to spin it on its head, to be a perception altering novel, and it's nonfiction, and I'd love to get to novels, probably not right, nonfiction book that I'd love to get to this year at some point. Now we have the rereads. Now I don't know if there's gonna be chapters at this point. You guys, if you're here at this point in the video, 20 minutes in exactly, you will know if there are chapters in the bottom of this video. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that there weren't. And if you're here this long, I'm thoroughly impressed. That's incredible. Thank you so much. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Didn't say that early enough in this video. That's fine. These next two, I've never reread a book. Now, there are two series in particular that I would love to reread. There's one that I think I have in line to reread depending on the Red Company's reading of the series. I would probably do this one on audio because I had read it physically already, and I think I want to experience it on audio, although I did love Tad Williams' prose style. I think getting into The Last King of Austen art, I'll definitely read that physically, but getting into Memory Star and Thorne again, I think I would love to reread that as my first ever reread in history. And that's crazy because it's so dense. But this was a beautiful experience for me. Just the ending of this book, in particular, the Dragonbone Chair, and just the series as a whole. There's so much that I know having read the last book to Green Angel Tower that happens that I was like, oh, I really need to reread, I think, because there's so much that happens that they tell us that maybe I missed it. And at the time I was just new into the fiction genre or fantasy genre as a whole. And so getting into it, I'm really looking forward to seeing what this is like on a reread. Now, also, I believe there's a whole group doing Book of the New Sun read, many for the first time. And Sword and Citadel is in my top 3 or 4, and I think you could throw Shadow and Claw in there at any point as well. This is one I knew as I was reading it I would love to reread. That said, as I was reading it, in the experience that I had, just reading the prose, getting Severian's, remembering his name to me is crazy, but getting Severian's experiences through his eyes, that first-person narrative, obviously inspiring Sun Eater by Christopher Ruocchio, he said himself, and inspired me in some ways. And I'd love to get a reread to get the depth of this piece, because I believe I picked up everything that was there on the surface, or at least definitely not everything, but I picked up things that were there on the surface that it made me enjoy my experience enough to the point where I'm ready to reread this or wanting to reread this. And a perfect excuse to reread this would be that read along that's going on here on BookTube. Okay, and then I don't know if I'm going to finish it this year, but we have the Conviction arc. Myself, Tom Orange, Britton, and the rest of Red Company will be talking about the Conviction arc for Berserk, and I intend to get most of this done by the end of the year, at least catch up. Maybe that'd be great. I don't know if it's possible, but we'll see. There's a lot to catch up on here, a lot of chapters that I got to read, and I'm very excited to continue my journey with Guts and to see where this goes. I have not, as far as my reading update goes, guys, I haven't picked it up this week. Got very busy going through these edits. I got back on Monday. Now I'm actually going to breeze into my writing update. So thank you guys if you're here just for the priority reads, just for the updates on what I will be reading in 2025 or what I intend to read in 2025. We have To Ride Hell's Chasm next on the TBR after the Bonehunters, which I am about 2/3 of the way through. That is as far as reading, as far as that goes. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and tuning in. Wow, did that in 23 minutes with no script. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to go into my writing, guys. Thank you. Leave your comments down below what your top priority series of 2025 is, and leave a like. And now I'm going to go to my writing. So I am the draft I got back from Dave Butler. Again, all my writing updates I also write. I will be putting them up on my Patreon for free. There's a short story there if you guys want to check it out. I might be doing a serialized novella. That's something I'm still considering, because I have a couple that I'm playing with that I'd love to share just to see what you guys think. I got some thoughts from some commenters last week, and it seems like something I could do, and then also later come back to revisit, copy edit, do the whole thing, and then put out in a collection or a novella as a whole, which I would intend to do anyways. But I think it'd be fun to just put out and just to make the World of Mercy a little bit more real and give it some life, give it some air, breathe into it. But yeah, so my writing updates will be up on Patreon as well. Book 1, I am in, I believe I'm chapter 15 of 48 total. in terms of my revisions, and they were given to me by Dave Butler. He has recommended a copy editor. I am in line to give her the copy of book 1 by the end of this month, by the end of January. So I have about 12 or 11 days to finish. My turnaround on the first round with Dave was about 16. So I believe I'll be able to get it done in that time. My intention is to get it done in that time. I have worked it out in my head and periodically in scheduling that I will be able to get X amount of chapters done per day to get to that point, to get to that goal. So by the end of January, my copy editor will have it in her hands, and she will be able to give me, her first round. She said by mid-February, and I'm really excited, really looking forward to that. And then I have a couple of proofreaders lined up, and I will be going with one round of proofreading. Well, I'll obviously have the copy editor do her thing. The word count right now, as far as cuts, by the way, 200,300, down from 202,000 something or other from that I had sent back to Dave. Here we are, 15 chapters in. So my copy editor will make her things. I will try to get that turnaround in 10 days to my proofreader. That might take 2 to 3 weeks, about 21 days. I'll try to get that turned around in 10 days as well. Whatever the proofreader corrects, and then I will get that to another proofreader who will also make corrections. And in that time, in the turnaround time that the copy editor has my book 1, the proofreader 1 has my book 1, and the proofreader 2 has my book 1. Whatever the turnaround time, lead time is of them having book 1, I will be revisiting book 2 starting in February. Book 2 is already done. It's been drafted. It's 187,000 words roughly, and I will be returning to that to make my first revision/rewrite after having finished the first draft, I believe, back in November. Wow, got that way wrong. I finished the first draft of book 2 back in November, and I will be revisiting that in February, which I'm really looking forward to. I love book 1. I love going through this process and seeing what the story is becoming and has become and will become. Book 2 has so much that happens because it closes out the arc that I start at the beginning of book 1 and leads into what books 3 and 4 will be, where they will take place. And I'm just stoked. I'm just stoked to return to book 2. I'm also a little reluctant because of some things that happened in that book, some moments that struck me in the first draft. You go through it, you draft it, it doesn't hit you, it hits you. And then, going back into it in draft 2 will be kind of an experience, and it'll be my first time going back into a second draft, having finished, or at least, been in the process of going through book 1 so many times. So I'm really looking forward to it, guys. Really looking forward to getting back to book 2, and then again, working on that novella and seeing where it goes. But I wanted to thank you so much for tuning in. If you watched the whole thing, holy crap, super impressed. That's awesome. If you like my lightsaber microphone, leave a like. If you don't like my lightsaber microphone, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's crazy. You should like it. All right, guys. Have a nice week, and I'll see you next Friday.